Last night, the Miami Heat defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 99-90 in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference semifinals to take the series 4-2 as a whole. Jimmy Butler led the way for the Miami Heat, scoring 32 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Max Strus also contributed with his playoff high of 20 points and 11 rebounds. And then on the other side for Philadelphia, Joel Embiid dropped 20 points and 12 rebounds. James Harden had 11 and 9 assists. And then Tobias Harris had 14 points and 8 rebounds. Yesterday, and really the series as a whole, we've seen these two teams on full display and we've seen who they are. And I believe that the series has turned out in a way that's very indicative of what we know from these two teams. First, starting with the Philadelphia 76ers. They are easily one of the most talented teams in the league with some of the best collection of talent in the league. Something I said before the series started was they have an incredible ability to create shots, and they have multiple guys that can do that. They have Danny Green, who unfortunately went down with the injury last night, and it did just come out that it was a torn ACL. So hope the best for him. But they have Danny Green, James Harden. Of course, you have MVP candidate, didn't win it. You have Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and now Tyrese Maxey on the scene. So really, if you just look at a collection of talent, you could argue that they have the best collection of talent in the league. But the issue of the 76ers was the same yesterday as it's been the entire series, and it's been really the entire year in what we know the 76ers team to be. They aren't consistent, and they also lack the work ethic. They lack the heart that is needed to push themselves forward in the playoffs. It feels like every single year Philadelphia comes up just short, and Philadelphia has been making minor changes to the trust the process years. Now eventually they're at a point where they compete every single year. They keep trying to make these changes, whether it be firing Brett Brown, bringing in Doc Rivers, letting go of Ben Simmons, letting go of Jimmy Butler. They keep making these moves, bringing in these big names, and theoretically on paper have great teams that should push forward. However, every single year we see that they don't do that, and they eventually hit a point and disappoint. Let's look at James Harden. James Harden at one point was one of, if not the best scorer in the NBA. There was even people questioning whether James Harden was better than Kobe Bryant. I was definitely not one of those people, but we know how good he was. He was regularly dropping 40, 50 points. Made it look like it was nothing. But there always has been the question around James Harden. How much effort is he going to put in on the defensive end? How much effort is he going to be to make sure his body can last over a full NBA season? We've seen him sputter out multiple times when it gets to the playoffs, and he really overdoes himself in the regular season. Now he's gone up there in age. Now he's in his 30s. He's not the same James Harden that's going to blow past multiple defenders, get a layup, get free throws, hit those step back threes like he regularly would. He got 30 points one time in this series. However, getting 11 points in an elimination game is just not good enough from James Harden. And then you have Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is one of the best players in the league, was my vote for MVP over Nikola Jokic. I prefer Embiid and what his game is over Jokic. However, Embiid does have the question marks over his head as well, of that being the injuries he's sustained over the entirety of his career. We know Joel Embiid missed the first 2 seasons after being the 3rd overall pick back in the day, and missing those first 2 seasons put a big question mark around him as whether he could sustain himself for a lengthy NBA career. And so far up to this point, he has, but he has also seen quite a number of injuries. And unfortunately for him and the 76ers, one of those came up in a very inopportune time, missing the first 2 games of the series here against Miami, and Miami pretty easily took the first 2 games to take a 2-0 series lead. And when Embiid came back, Philly then went on to win the next 2 games, dominated game 3, winning 99-79, took game 4 also in Philadelphia, and the series was tied 2-2 and looking completely different. So if Joel Embiid can stay consistently healthy, this 76ers team will be dangerous for years to come, but the health is something that's always going to loom over his head. You also have Tobias Harris. I really like Tobias Harris. He can create buckets from every spot on the floor. He can drive. He can pull up, hit threes. However, you're paying him $38 million. And he only drops 14 points in an elimination game, the biggest game of the season. And Tobias Harris, again, that's been the story of his career. We know he's talented. He can create shots, but he's not quite the max level superstar player that you're going to be paying $38, $40 million. And to wrap it all in a bow, you have Doc Rivers, who personally, you guys know, I'm not the biggest fan of Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers has shown us multiple times that he isn't one of the premier elite coaches in this league. Looking back at 2015, blew a 3-1 series lead with the LA Clippers with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Dunk City, whatever their nickname was, I forget. But that was an incredible team. They blew a 3-1 lead there against the Clippers in the bubble 2 years ago, blew another 3-1 lead against the Nuggets with the Clippers. Then last year, you have the opportunity to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you come against Trae Young and the Hawks, who really was just Trae Young, which is what the Heat saw last round. And they lost to them, couldn't handle the mentality of Ben Simmons, some other players on the team. And we've seen some of that mentality linger over this year with their issues of work ethic. So I'm not a big fan of Doc Rivers from what we've seen him in the past and what we're seeing from him now. So really just top to bottom, this Philadelphia 76ers team has a lot of talent, but every single person, whether it be James Harden, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and head coach Doc Rivers, every single one of them has question marks and every single one of them has issues at this point in their careers. And then if you look at the Miami Heat are not a perfect team by any means. Yes, they did a great job in securing the number 1 seed, the best team in the East, and have a lot of great things that they've built around and got them to this point. However, we know they're not perfect. In game 3, the Miami Heat threw up an absolute dud, losing 99-79, and then lost the very next game in Philadelphia. And there was the issue of who's going to get the next bucket, which is something for Miami has been an issue. Jimmy Butler has been great for the Heat, scoring over 30 points multiple times in the playoffs so far, has 2 40-point games that has seen Miami now move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. However, outside of Jimmy Butler, sometimes you're left wondering who's going to hit the next shot. Tyler Hero hasn't been the hottest in the playoffs. Max Strus had a great game yesterday, scoring 20 points. However, he isn't always the hottest. You have Victor Oladipo back now, but Victor Oladipo can't be relied on night in, night out to get hot. So Miami Heat has these issues, but they continue to find a way to win. And that's because, to me, Miami has a almost perfect combination of both work ethic and talent. The Miami Heat, first off, being led by Jimmy Butler, is the perfect calculation of this team. He works hard. We saw multiple offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter yesterday, could hit multiple shots, can hit the 3-pointer, which is something we've questioned over his career. However, getting an offensive rebound, dribbling out to the corner, hitting a 3 was huge for the Heat in the fourth quarter as they were trying to close out the game. And the defense he provides, the energy he provides, we saw him running off the court saying, really, you're going to pay Tobias Harris over me? I love the dog he has. I love the talent he has. He's just a perfect player for the Miami Heat. And the Miami Heat do have players who can get hot. I was just questioning, sometimes they don't, and sometimes you're left wondering where the shot's going to come from. But Hero, 6th man of the year, averaged 20 points a game of the regular season. Victor Oladipo, we know how great he is. Kyle Lowry, the veteran presence he provides. Duncan, Strus can both hit shots. Bam Adebayo is not the most dynamic scorer in the world. However, his defense is fantastic. PJ Tucker is going to occasionally get you a bucket, but he's going to lock up the opponent team's first or second best player. So while Philadelphia was more talented, the Miami Heat wanted it more. They fought harder. They were more consistent. They were better coached. And I'm very excited for the Miami Heat moving on past this round. I was questioning how Miami would fare against teams unlike the Hawks, where you saw how they handled Trae Young, double teaming him as soon as he came across half court, switching every single screen, making his life a living hell every single night. And they did a great job against Joel Embiid once he came back. Joel Embiid, when he came back, dominated the first 2 games for Philly and really was the difference, those 2 games, 3 and 4, that even the series for Philadelphia 2-2. But Miami never stopped their intensity. They never changed their game plan on Joel Embiid. They were always pushing and shoving, even when at times it would draw up the foul count really high, get them in the bonus very early on in the quarters, get some people in some foul trouble. Miami Heat never changed that up, and it was what won them the series. Those first 2 games, Embiid was getting what he want. However, since then, in the 2 games the Miami Heat won after that, Joel was really pushed out to the perimeter. You saw him make 2 threes last night. However, he wasn't giving the same fight to try to get into the paint, get to his spots, get some layups, get some dunks. We saw him more settling for jump shots, being more passive. And last night, only getting 20 points really showed how well the defense of the Miami Heat has been on him to get him to the point where he doesn't even want to step near the paint. So Miami Heat did a fantastic job against Philadelphia and now will be moving on to play either the winner of the Milwaukee Bucks or Boston Celtics. I think it's going to be the Bucks. And if it is the Bucks, that is definitely a concern. You have the former NBA champ Giannis, Chris Middleton might be coming back. Drew Holiday is a guy who is so key for the Bucks in the playoffs. Even though I do think Boston is overall the better team, I'm a really big fan of what the Celtics have done this year. I do think the Bucks are a bigger threat for the Miami Heat because they're going to match you with the intensity. They're going to match you with the talent, with the size, the defense ability. So I would rather play the Boston Celtics but it's probably going to be the Bucks, and that's going to be a fantastic series. We've seen 2 years in a row now, Miami Heat having to play the Bucks. Miami took it the first time, of course. The Bucks swept us in the first round last year. So I'm really excited for whoever that is as the Miami Heat move on into the Eastern Conference Finals. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Today was the first time I recorded back in my own room as opposed to being back at FAU, which I'm not sure how the summer is going to play out, but I intend to keep making videos. Not sure if I'm going to make long videos and put them on Spotify anymore or just make individual videos like I'm doing here today. But thank you all very much for watching. Do you think the Miami Heat are going to be able to go on past whoever we play next round and make it to the NBA Finals? Please let me know down in the comments below. Please like, please subscribe, and please all have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.